Let's now tell you that South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed the decision handed down by the South Gauteng High Court Division to interdict the private prosecution brought against him by former President Jacob Zuma from proceeding until the application to set aside the private prosecution is heard. The court affirmed all of the president's key contentions, namely on jurisdiction of the court to hear the interdict application, the urgency of the matter against the court appearance, date based on prima facie, and unlawful nolle prosequi. The court further found in the president's favor on the violation of rights to personal freedom based on a prima facie defective summons. President's spokesperson Vincent Mangwea says the judgment confirms the position of the president that the private prosecution is motivated by the ulterior purpose based on spurious and unfounded charges, constitutes an abuse of private prosecution provisions, and demonstrates flagrant disregard for the rule of law.
The judgment confirms the position of the president that the private prosecution is motivated by the ulterior purpose based on spurious and unfounded charges, constitutes an abuse of private prosecution provisions, and demonstrates flagrant.
Now, Advocate Paul Hoofman, a constitutional law expert, joins me to unpack this latest development. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. All right, so what is your reaction to the ruling? All right, so what is your reaction to the ruling? Did it even come to you as a surprise at all?
No, it's not a surprise at all. In fact, it's simply evidence that the rule of law is intact in South Africa and that our judges can be relied upon to reach a sound verdict in what is really a preliminary stage of this litigation. The interdict that was granted this morning is an interdict of an interim nature. It will stand until the judicial review proceedings in respect of the summons issued against the sitting president by the ex-president has been heard and finally determined.
Well, it's been a fiery contest, even as President Ramaphosa's legal team argued that to submit to an unlawful summons will be a violation of his own rights, while the lawyers representing the former president argued otherwise. And you said that it is something that you can rely upon in terms of the court proceedings and the verdicts that will come out. But then how did the court come up with its ruling, which aligned with the arguments of Ramaphosa's team?
What was being relied on in relation to his rights is our Bill of Rights, which is Chapter 2 of the Constitution in South Africa. Our Bill of Rights has to be respected, protected, promoted, and fulfilled by the state in South Africa. The right to equality before the law, the right to human dignity, the right to freedom of movement, and the right to bodily and psychological integrity were all invoked by the president against the ex-president, and his arguments found favor with the court, which held that in South Africa, the freedom of the individual is a highly valued matter that does entitle the president to seek the temporary interdict that has now been granted.
All right, finally, Paul, what should we expect next? Now, we know that there is still a principal application that's yet to be heard. And what do you think the impact will be on whether or not Ramaphosa will be facing a private prosecution?
Yes, I don't see the private prosecution ever getting off the ground. I believe that this entire private prosecution is simply a political stunt designed to put a spoke in the wheel of the Ramaphosa candidacy last month. The spoke did not succeed in preventing him from being re-elected as the leader of his party, and that having transpired, there's very little left in the case other than the fact that its pending may delay the criminal trial which ex-President Zuma is facing. So if it's part of his standard delaying tactics, then he will fight on to the last appeal available to him, simply for the purpose of delaying the commencement of the criminal trial that he faces, a criminal trial which has eventuated because his former financial advisor was convicted in 2005 and sent to prison for 15 years for corrupting Mr. Zuma.
All right, thank you so much, Paul, for joining us.
My pleasure.